Hello there, it's me, Teacher Mike from Phuket PALS. Welcome back to another video. In this one, we're looking at GED social studies, and we're looking at a topic that comes up time and time again. You need to know about this, okay? It's about types of historical and modern governments. Now, I know for most of you, thinking about government isn't the most exciting thing to study, but unfortunately, it comes up almost every time in the GED social studies test. So you need to get your head around it. There's some difficult terms you need to learn. And let's just jump straight in. There are 6 types of government that you need to know. First one is absolute monarchy. Second, constitutional monarchy. Third, parliamentary democracy. Fourth, presidential democracy. Fifth, theocracies. And sixth, dictatorships. Now, at this point, if you're thinking, I haven't a clue what half of these mean, it doesn't matter, I'm going to explain them. So keep watching. First one is absolute monarchy. Absolute monarchy is an idealized form of government, a monarchy where the ruler has power to rule their country and citizens freely, with no laws or legally organized direct opposition telling the monarch what to do. Okay, so in the country, the order of importance is the king, the number 1, and then the people. Okay, so absolute monarchies is when the king holds absolute power, total power. There is no one who can challenge him. There's no parliaments. There are no watchdogs. There's no media. Nothing that can kind of challenge his what he says. And what the king says is what happens. The king makes the laws. The king is the ultimate arbitrator in terms of legal disputes. He just has total power in his hands. And you know, in almost everywhere in the world now, this style of government has disappeared because it has the possibility, as history has shown us, to lead to corruption and persecution of peoples and abuse and various other things. Okay, so this is when the king holds total power in his hands and no one can challenge him. Kings and queens, just to kind of meet that out a little bit for you. They get their power through their birthright or hereditary. Okay, and if you look into history, there was something called the divine right of kings, and many people believed in the notion of the divine right of kings. That was that God actually gave kings their right to rule, which is quite convenient, I think, in a time when the majority of people were quite uneducated. A cynic would argue this was a good means of control, but we had the divine right of kings, and you were either born into it or it was in your family. People were raised to become heads of state, so these kings and queens would have been from a very young age schooled in how to behave and how to speak and how to present themselves, so that their power, when they became ruler, would be more easily maintained. Highly educated and cultured. Okay, so they would have had fantastic tutors and things like that taught them a wide range of subjects. Louis XIV of France was an absolute monarch. That was before he had his head chopped off during the French Revolution. That was 1681 to 1715. And if you want to find out more about the kind of abuses and what can happen within a country socially with an absolute monarch in place, if you read Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, it kind of shows you that the final stages of France before the French Revolution, and just the kind of arrogance of the aristocracy, and we all know what became of the aristocracy and Louis XIV once the people took control. But there we are. Okay, so pardon me, there's still a few countries with absolute monarchies in the world today, such as Swaziland in the southeast of Africa, Saudi Arabia, Vatican City, and Oman. So not that many left. Now, constitutional monarchies. A constitutional monarchy is a political system in which the head of state is a king or a queen, ruling to the extent allowed by a constitution. Okay, so in that society, in the country, the order of importance is 1, the constitution, 2, the king or queen, 3, the people. Okay, so if you don't know what a constitution is, a constitution is a set of rules. It can either be written rules, just like in the US, or they can be unwritten rules or uncodified rules, like in the UK. And this is basically what this is how the system works. How what the king or queen can do, what powers they have, and also the powers that the government has as well. These are the things that you get in a constitution. Okay, so this is Queen Elizabeth II. You probably recognize her and her lovely crown. So yeah, she's been in power for a very long time now, and UK is a constitutional monarchy. So yes, she does have power to do pretty much anything, but her power is checked by the Constitution, and also the Constitution says that laws, etc., have to be thought up and developed in the Houses of Parliament, passed by the House of Lords, etc., before the Queen gets rubber stamps that law. So this is it. This is there's not absolute power in the hands. Where, like in an absolute monarchy, the king or the queen would just make everything themselves, and no one can challenge them. But within a constitutional monarchy like the UK, there are constitutional checks on the king or queen's power. So the United Kingdom has a Commonwealth of nations, so New Zealand, Canada, Jamaica, and she is the monarch. So the British Commonwealth is basically a collection of countries that are former colonial. They're areas that the British used to run during colonial times, and now they have independent governments and things like that. But there still are a number of them within the British Commonwealth who have the British Queen still as their queen. A little bit odd, a bit strange, and seems a little bit almost outdated these days. But there you are. Other constitutional monarchies, we have Belgium, Japan, Spain, and Sweden. Okay, next, parliamentary democracy. This political system is based on the idea that Parliament is supreme. The people choose representatives at regular elections. Okay, like Australia there. The people elect the Parliament, then Parliament makes laws and decisions for the country, then Parliament elects a president. Okay, next, presidential democracy, like in the USA. The people elect the president to a 4-year term. Congress is elected separately. All branches of government work together within a system of checks and balances. Checks and balances is also a very important thing you need to know for the GED social studies test. So please check out checks and balances if you haven't already. We have videos actually in our YouTube channel. You can check them out. Okay. So presidential democracy, is it good? It's effective. Everyone can be heard. Every voice counts. It's ineffective. It takes time to hear all points of view, discuss, and vote. Like if you think about trying to get a piece of legislation, a law passed within the US system, it's kind of like it's been referred to before as the corridor of legislation. So it's just like a long straight corridor that takes a long time to go down, and you may never get to the end. It's a bit like that. That's in the US, things have to be passed by at various levels in order for it to become law. Okay, it has to start out in the legislature, then it has to get approved by judiciary and has to get approved by the executive as well before it becomes law. Otherwise, it goes straight back to the beginning again. So the US system is a great way to produce quality laws, well thought out laws, but it can be cumbersome and a little bit inefficient sometimes. Okay, next is theocracy. That's a government by a god or priests. Okay, basically religious rulers. So in the contemporary world, Iran and Afghanistan are considered theocracies because ultimate political authority in each is in the hands of religious leaders and is a fundamentalist regime whose purpose is to organize under religious law. Okay, so that's simple enough. Okay, you have religious leaders at the top of government making all the decisions, and they're usually making decisions along religious lines. Dictatorship, number 6, a form of government in which absolute power is concentrated in a dictator. What is a dictator? A ruler who is unconstrained by law and usually rules with terror. Okay, a dictator can do what he wants, when he wants, to whomever he wants. If you question a dictator's rule, you can be killed. Okay, so there've been many dictators throughout history. Some of them, the ones that pop to mind, arguably, are people like Stalin in Russia, Mao Zedong in China, Hitler in Nazi Germany, and dictatorships are usually military figures, and you either play their game and accept their ideas and ways of doing things, or you'll end up disappearing in the middle of the night. Put it that way. Okay, so here's some dictators. Kim Jong-il, North Korea, Charles Taylor in Liberia. It's just a few of them here. Fidel Castro in Cuba was a dictator, seized power by revolution. Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. And there's so many. So the question is, what political scientists play tug of war with is which of these systems, modern or historical, is better for a country? Which allows a country to prosper and develop in the most effective way? Okay, so you can see, we can think of absolute monarchy. Well, what might a pro be for that? What might a good thing be? Well, a good thing could be that a country is united under one leader with a common identity. Could be that. For a con, it could be, well, you don't know who this monarch is. It could be someone who's a bit power hungry and a bit greedy, and they might set the system up to best serve themselves and their family and not treat the people well. In a constitutional monarchy, a good thing about that is that the powers of the king or queen are checked by the constitution. And a negative there could be that you might get kind of unwanted. It's possible to get kind of too much influence by the monarch in there. Constitutional monarchies, they have their drawbacks too. Parliamentary democracy. Well, in a parliamentary democracy, the people elect politicians who represent their views. So the people are quite well represented within a parliamentary democracy. The danger, though, is, as a con, the danger is that you get one political party dominating, and then you have what's that called? A kind of democratic dictatorship, I think it's called, where you have one party dominating, and kind of the voices of minorities within a country can't be heard. If you think about in the UK, you have the Conservative Party and the Labour Party dominating, and more minor party, such as the Liberal Democrats or the Greens or whoever else, they find it very difficult to get any seats in Parliament because of almost everyone votes for one of the two bigger parties. Same in the US with the Republicans and the Democrats. It becomes minorities within the country, just their voice isn't heard. Presidential democracy. Okay, so like in the US, pros of this are that the president himself can check laws, he can veto laws and send them back to for Congress. So that's a good thing. Sometimes laws might be passed and he gets the final say on if it should go through or not. Of course, Congress can overturn a president's veto with a 2/3 majority, I believe it is. The presidential democracy as well, it's again good for a country to unite under a kind of a figurehead. It provides cultural cohesion and identity. Theocracy, good points about that. Can't think of any. Perhaps it allows people of a certain religion to live out the purest form of their religion under religious law. I'm struggling to get a positive of that. Negative, of course, again, minorities. Let's say a minority in a country, minority religions will be ignored, if not persecuted. And also, it's rather presumptuous to think that everyone is religious within a country, because a lot of people are not. And dictatorships, of course, if you want to say a positive, you'd say that a dictator will get things done. Okay. There'll be no hanging about. They're usually military people with military precision, and they will get stuff done in a country. It was like the Nazis. They built the autobahns, and they had a massive push to turn the country's economy around. Negatives of dictatorships are, well, people get imprisoned for disagreeing, people get killed, people disappear. It's rule with an iron fist, isn't it? So dictatorships can be very brutal. And that's about it. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. And check out the next one. All the best. Have a good day.